Okay, so this is going to be take two. So it's the first YouTube video. Here we go. Take one for the team. Okay, let's begin. Don't know who I am. I'm Reese. I'm a cosplayer mostly on Instagram, but I do have a Twitter in this trying time, because who doesn't? And I thought while we're in lockdown, I might as well start a booktube because I got very inspired by someone called Cindy, and I found her stuff so entertaining. I thought might as well give it a try. So here we are. The first book I thought I'd review as a starting point is The Last Sun by K.D. Edwards. It's the first kind of book I've read in a long time, which is more of an adult fantasy book, like young adult to adult, because a lot prior to this, I was more into the sort of considered children's books, like Percy Jackson, Peculiar Children, Carry On even. I'm not sure if that counts, but to me the colourful stuff in it just is really good. So as starting points, I actually found this book from a Tumblr post, which was about supporting LGBT sort of books with similar authors and things like that, didn't have as much viewing rate as some of the other people out there. Like I said, Carry On has a huge following. So I thought, wow, tarots, might as well check it out. This sounds really interesting. Referring to the cover, I didn't realize until like 2 months after reading this book, but the reason it's called The Last Sun is to do with, obviously the sun tarot. I didn't realize, but the beautiful front cover is made to look like the actual card itself, like the actual background, like stained glass window. Even the red curtain that's falling is all similar to the actual design of the tarot. And I absolutely envy the cover, because I think a lot of books in book cover departments are very lacking now, especially in terms of design and effort. A lot of the time now people just go for really graphic design, cutesy stuff, where it's more focused on a logo, or it'll be a stock photo, and no one likes stock photos, not in today's market. So from there, the plot, I'll try and keep out a lot of spoilers, but I can't really promise anything because this is the first video I'm ever doing. So it's sort of like a murder mystery in structure, like spies as well. So there's sort of this idea, you've got things happened, and they kind of go in and they're told to solve it by a hierarchy, and it sort of evolves around that. But it's definitely a fantasy genre of book, urban fantasy to be more precise. The actual description I'd say about the book as an introduction is it's meant to be Atlantis, or like the tarots are the sort of basis for how the Atlantean system works. So each major arcana is sort of a kingdom in itself in a big kingdom. So they will have like their own roles, their own jobs, their own houses. It's like War of the Roses, where you had like the White Rose house and House of York, House of Lancaster style sort of stuff. And they've kind of been introduced into the modern day. Normally, I'm not a fan of Atlantean-based material, because I feel like personally it's very overused, especially in romance books. So, in talks of the introduction, I found the whole thing rather hard to grasp to begin with, because it goes straight into introducing you with Rune St. John. Yeah, Rune St. John. And it's very much into the idea of you're straight into the action. You're written with the Lover's Court, and something big's about to go down, and it kind of just all happens very fast. You're not really sure who the main characters are going to be, because there's one or two characters that appear in this section that kind of just don't pop up again afterwards. But I will say, I overall, after that beginning bit where it was kind of hard to grasp, it was very easy to kind of learn and adapt to what the author was trying to get across as a setting. And I did enjoy it in the end. So basically, what I learned from that was give it a chance because it actually did pay off. Especially with the magic side of element, the actual theme of magic in this book is different from others. It's not like Harry Potter where you've got like wands and they, have books of spells they have to remember and learn from. In this, it's more about seals and sort of magic items like necklaces, jewelry, swords, that sort of thing, weapons that you can put on your body, and it will give you sort of like an elemental power up for one turn at a time. But you have to kind of put them to shrines to get them recharged. It's kind of like a video game in a way in terms of if I'm thinking right, it's a bit like a video game in terms of you can only use certain weapons certain times as power ups, that sort of thing. I thought it was a cool idea, and it does pay off for this style of book. I would say the characters are interesting. I didn't think I would like some of them, and some of them I didn't like, but a lot of them I turned out to really enjoy. So, we're introduced to Rune St. John, who's sort of the main character. He's the last son of the actual fallen house of the sun, which, very self-explanatory. He's the hero. He comes across as very, for me, very complex. He can sometimes be very witty, sometimes sarcastic, but then sometimes he comes across as very kind, especially to the people who have experienced trauma in a very similar way he has. His best friend is this, or companion in the book, because I've got this idea of companions, is someone called Brand, who I would call him like the best friend character trope, where he's the protector and sort of a mentor in a way, because he has all the knowledge. He's a human, he's an average human, but he's kind of more experienced and takes the job way more seriously, and he can be more of an ass to other characters. I did think throughout the whole book that they were going to be a thing, because in my head, in a lot of these books and the tropes, it's very much the best friend trope, best friends become lovers. But it wasn't the case in this book. It wasn't the case. It was actually a very good change for once, and it made me remember that, hang on, best friends don't have to be put together, and it worked better in that way, especially when you've got a character that's purposely made to be the love interest. I think that's the better way of doing it, and it worked out to please me rather than disappoint me. Apparently on Twitter, Katie Edwards has expressed interest in doing more books. I've actually got the second book on the side. I haven't started reading it yet. It's under my Paradise Lost book. And this one's going to be called The Hanged Man. And from what I know about The Hanged Man is that I actually don't know very much, but what I'm guessing is it's going to be based around the Hanged Man being the sort of antagonist, because that's what comes across as the next step in the book. When you read it, you'll kind of get what I'm saying, especially the last few chapters, because it's all to do with a character called Max, who's the kind of hinted at last heir of the Lover's House, who's my favourite character personally. I love him, I adore him, he deserves so much love. And he's apparently this is a spoiler moment, so kind of if you want to skip a few seconds, that's fine. But he's kind of engaged to the Hanged Man, and that's kind of where the book's going. But I don't know if he's kept with that, especially because the front cover has that character on. I'm suspecting that he might have changed it. So when we actually meet him, that won't be the case. Especially for me, the idea of a hanged man character would come across as more of a tortured soul, someone who's gone through a lot of trauma, or someone who's actually seen the sadness of the world and is just looking, for a way to love outside of all this terror. But that's my thoughts on that. I would say there is some things that I would look out for if you are going to read this book. And the reason I say that is because when I went into this book, I didn't know what I was expecting. There is a lot of swearing, which if you're not used to that, obviously be aware. But there's also a lot of references to sexual abuse, especially with the main character, Rune. And I wasn't expecting it, so it was kind of a surprise when it started popping up throughout the book. But it was actually done really well. Personally, for me, I think Katie Edwards did a great job at treating it. If you're going to introduce that as a character element, you need to be very careful where you step with that sort of thing, especially if you're someone who's gone through that sort of what he went through yourself. But I do think he handled it very well. It's kind of placed throughout the book in a fluid way, so you get hints of it, and then when he's in a bad situation, you can tell when the trauma really starts to show, and how that plays overall into him as a person. So that's my say on that. So just be careful if you're going to read this book. Just be aware that there is some stuff like that on the inside of this content. So I think I'm just going to go straight to final thoughts because this has been all over the place. Would I recommend this book? Absolutely. It was, for me, a 4-star to 5-star read. I'm going to say, because it's been a while since I've read it, 5 stars, because it is a very good book, in my personal opinion. It can be hard to read to start off with, and it isn't going to be, you can't go in expecting it to be like, oh, J.K. Rowling and all this sort of stuff. You can't expect that. It is a good book with its own stuff, its very own unique storyline. It takes in things about, especially with the setting, it goes differently to how you would normally expect. And I think it has a lot of pluses. There are an absolute ton of great reasons why we should be supporting books like this. But I would say, I think at times I find, as someone who it takes a while to read, like it can take me weeks or even months to read a book, and that's just due to scheduling and my slow capacity to read words. It can be slow at times, but luckily enough, there's enough motivation for you to grasp, to remember when you pick up from when you left off. Yeah, this is what's happening. So yeah, I'd say probably 4 stars to 5 stars. Yeah, again, I think what bumped up as well was the cover, because it's a great cover. And yeah, I think I'll just probably end it off here, to be honest. I'll probably start reading the next one. We're going to see how this goes, because yeah. So okay, so final thoughts. Well, actually, no, kind of end of video moments. Thank you for joining. Please don't hate me too much. Go and read the book. It can look very expensive on Amazon. It might be cheaper elsewhere, but I think it's where it's a smaller produced book that it can be a bit more expensive, but overall I think it was worth it. So we'll end it there. See you.